This is a first for this channel, Darth Vader Unlimited. I am live. Now, of course, when I get a better handle on things, this green screen won't be green at all. It'll be whatever photo I want to put up. And I can't wait for this thing to get started. It'll start slow, I'm sure, and then it will grow. And of course, I'll hopefully learn how to put music and videos all the other good stuff. All right. So it's almost going to be like Jurassic Park, I think, where there'll be a number of bugs, things that definitely need to be changed, and things that could be improved upon. But we're just going to take it one at a time. All right. And I'm going to wait for more people to filter in. And if no one filters in, guess what? I'm still going an hour. But yeah, I'm very excited about this. Again, I hope as many people can come in and participate as possible. This is all about the love of Star Wars. Okay. And Star Wars is a very alienated fan base at the moment. Should it be alienated? No, it shouldn't be. But people have differing opinions about what is great, what is not great. And we have to learn to be tolerant. Okay. Generations change, stories change to accommodate the needs of different generations. And admittedly, as an older generation, because I was around for the first generation of Star Wars, okay, and it has to be within my patience, within my power, within my maturity to at least hear out the people that are in love with the newer generations of Star Wars. For example, the prequel trilogy is a newer generation. I mean, it debuted an entire generation, 22 years, in fact, after the original Star Wars. Now, let me stop right there. The first Star Wars movie is called Star Wars. It's not called Star Wars A New Hope. George Lucas added that later. I think when Star Wars was re released in the theaters in either 1980 or 1981, he added the chapter heading Episode 4 A New Hope. So I call the first movie Star Wars. But to differentiate it for the sake of continuity and the sake of clarity, I'll just throw A New Hope in there. But it's called Star Wars. That was on the marquee. All right. So again, as I said, the prequel trilogy is the next generation of Star Wars, and a generation is generally 20 years. So we're talking about an entire generation of Star Wars fans that maybe aren't as familiar with the original trilogy, and all they know is the prequel trilogy. So as an older generation fan, I have to watch the prequel trilogy, examine it, understand what audience they were trying to hit, and then I can make an opinion from there. I don't just automatically go, oh, it's new Star Wars or it's trash. I have to examine it for myself, okay? Hello, whoever that is. I just saw the number go up. Thank you for joining us. We would be honored if you would join us. And we are honored that you have joined us. So let's check the chat and see if you. And I would strongly encourage everyone that comes on to at least say something, like the video, so that the algorithm will let people know that I'm live. Okay? Because we're a small channel at the moment. We're about 318 subscribers, and I'm grateful for all 318 of you. So if you can share this and get the word out, I would greatly appreciate it. But as I was saying, talking about the generational gaps between Star Wars trilogies, as an original trilogy generationalist, I guess would be the right word, I have to understand what the pulse of each generation is, and then I can give an opinion from there. Okay, so I understand that the prequel trilogy, they wanted more action, they wanted more Jedi lightsaber choreography. Okay, so I didn't necessarily have as much choreography. I didn't have as many flips, even though you've seen Luke do flips, while he's fighting Vader in Cloud City in the carbon freezing chamber. We see Luke do a backflip up onto a ledge in Return of the Jedi in the throne room of the Death Star. But we have to be tolerant. Okay, we have to listen. We have to hear everybody's opinions. We have to know what these movies are aimed at. Now, in regards to harking back to the original trilogy, then I can become more critical. You understand what I'm saying? If you're going to harken back to the original trilogy in the prequel trilogy, or harken back to the original trilogy in the sequel trilogy, I can examine and go, okay, there's a breach in continuity here. Okay. I felt that way in the special editions of the original trilogy. I'm like, wait a minute. Why did he change up these songs in Return of the Jedi? You know what I mean? And Empire Strikes Back, where Vader is talking to the Emperor, where you see the Emperor for the first time, I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me Darth Vader didn't know that the person he was chasing, whose last name was Skywalker, who was responsible for destroying the Death Star, who Vader himself said the Force is strong with this one, didn't put two and two together that it was his son? Skywalker? Come on. How common a last name was Skywalker? And strong with the Force? I didn't really like that scene with Ian McDermott reprising his role as the Emperor. Now, of course, I always love seeing Ian McDermott as the Emperor, but the dialogue of that scene, and then Vader goes, "How is that possible?" I could have done away with that special edition scene as well. But as far as like the technology, like I can understand why George Lucas would want to improve the last Death Star battle. You know, where you see the ships taking off. Like that's beautiful. I think that's beautifully done. But one of the problems is that George Lucas, you can tell he's a perfectionist because he's always trying to improve the original trilogy. It's like, George, leave it alone. Leave it alone. It's great the way it is. And a lot of times when you sit down and you have adequate time to think about something, you don't have the same urgency. Now, there were a lot of production nightmares for George Lucas filming the original trilogy, but that helped make the movies what they are. It's like that hardship really created like a diamond, you know? So, as I said, the original trilogy is great. The original trilogy is my favorite, and that's where I stand with it. I like the prequels. I'm not as big of a fan of the sequels, mainly because of the breach of continuity from the originals. All right. Now, I could go all night talking about all the deviations from the original trilogy's stories and concepts in just the prequels. But I think if I do that, people will get the misconception that I don't like the prequel movies. And that's not true. I like the prequel movies. Do I like them as much as the originals? No. Do I think the prequels have improved or given us adequate backstory on why the original trilogy era is the way it is now? In my opinion, no. Do I think the Clone Wars the animated series? Do I think the Clone Wars did a better job of explaining why the original trilogy era is the way it is? Eh. So, and the sequel trilogy definitely doesn't improve on the originals. Okay, because the sequel trilogy was very disrespectful to the prequel trilogy. I remember in an interview, J.J. Abrams said something along the lines of, as BB-8 is rolling through the desert, he'll see bones, and those will be the bones of Jar Jar Binks. He might have been joking, but even when you're quipping like that, that's him telling me that he didn't really respect the prequel trilogy. I'm just going by what he said, okay? Because even if it's a joke, you can tell there's something to it. And I think that's where the sequel trilogy sort of lost its way. They were like, yeah, we can just bypass the prequels. Nobody liked the prequels anyway. Okay, the prequels weren't as well received, but over time, the prequels did age well. That's how I feel. Okay. And as you get older, you're less inhibited about your opinions about things. So my thing is this. If I'm going to be critical of the sequel trilogy, I also have to be critical of the prequel trilogy. I also have to be critical of the original trilogy because I'm objective. That's just how I am. I'm fair. I think I'm honest, and I think I'm pretty blunt at times too. All right, and you can sort of get an image of that in Sith, the little series I do. Stupidity, I totally hate it. But again, that's about movies that I like and love, so I can be fair. All right, because so far every episode of Sith, I've done 4 installments of Sith, have been about the prequels. So hopefully somebody isn't just doing like a cursory glance over and go, oh, this guy don't like the prequel trilogies. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm being fair to the trilogy that I don't like, the sequel trilogy. All right. And here's where I go out on a limb. My favorite movie of the sequel trilogy is The Last Jedi. You heard me. My favorite movie of the sequel trilogy is The Last Jedi. That's the movie that people hate the most. And maybe that's why I like it so much, because nobody else likes it. But honestly, I enjoyed the movie. Does it have its flaws? Of course. It's a Star Wars movie. Star Wars movies always have flaws. It's not as pristine. It's not as well edited as Star Trek. And again, I hope that doesn't make me a pariah of the Star Wars universe by saying that Star Trek is cleaner, the movies are better edited, or whatever. Maybe not the action sequences aren't as better edited as Star Wars, but as far as a cohesive movie goes, Star Wars films are usually pretty flawed. But that's why we love them. We love them for their flaws. And to me, The Last Jedi is probably the most flawed of the Star Wars movies. All right. Now, let me hopefully not alienate the audience again, because I might be at strike two for somebody. Okay. But the one Star Wars movie that I do not like is The Rise of Skywalker. I didn't even see that in the theaters. And for somebody that's loved Star Wars as long as I have, for me to intentionally not go to the theaters to watch The Rise of Skywalker, that shows that I had no expectations for it. I didn't want to see it at all. Did I see it? Yes. I saw it the first time with my family, and we were all just like, this is what we're getting. This is how we're ending a 9-episode arc, basically, about the Skywalkers. Really? We're doing it this way? No. No. And what made it worse, we were calling out things before they happened in the movie. And when your movie gets that predictable, that's terrible. When they had that little sandworm, I guess, underneath the quicksand in the desert, is in a cave or something, I was like, oh, she's going to force heal the sandworm. Maybe that was obvious to everybody. All right. And she did it. Okay. And then when Kylo Ren climbed back up in the cavern or the fortress of Exegol, and he saw Rey lying there, I said, all right, so he's going to heal her all of a sudden. She's going to come back to life, and then he's going to die. And it happened. As soon as it happened, I just heard one of my siblings just sigh out loud, like, and that really just summed up the movie. My mom looked at me like, because they know how much of a Star Wars fan I am. As you can see, I have an Obi-Wan Kenobi shirt. All right. So I'm not just flapping my gums here. I really do love Star Wars. Okay. I love it so much that I can tell when the same heart, the same spirit, the same charisma is not in the script. I can tell when I've been shortchanged on what great Star Wars is. All right. And maybe on future live streams, I'll go over my 5 favorite Star Wars characters. Maybe I'll rank the Star Wars movies. And of course, I would appreciate your participation in these live streams. I'm grateful for all the participation in this one. And if you're watching, please don't hesitate to leave a chat, okay? And hey, if it's just you and I for the next hour or so, fine with me, okay? And we can talk about things. And I also want to talk about the direction of this channel, Darth Vader Unlimited. Of course, it started out as just John Bat 426, because I just kind of made it on a whim. I was like, you know what, I love Star Wars. Let me start a YouTube channel. So I just said, I'll just go by my old rap name. I used to be called John Bat when I used to rap, or whatever. See, that rhymed. John Bat. I used to rap. Clap. Anyway. So, but now when I've had more opportunities to think about things or to see other Star Wars channels and really talk about and express how I feel about Star Wars and the direction that I want to see Star Wars going, I decided to think more about it. That's when it became Darth Vader Unlimited on December 21st of last year, 2022. So hopefully we can gain some steam. We can get some, I don't want to say followers, but subscribers. And you guys can help me to clear our path, okay? So that we can stand amongst other Star Wars channels. Now, am I looking to be superior, supreme? No, because I think that's kind of selfish. But if you guys say it's the best channel, hey, who am I to tell you to say otherwise? Okay. But the goal is not to shoot down Star Wars Theory or shoot down Comic Con. I'm subscribed to all those channels. I love those guys. I love all their work. The Stupendous Wave, I think. I love all their stuff. And I would actually like to do some fan fiction myself. I'm currently in the process of writing two Star Wars fan fictions, and of course, they're about Darth Vader. Okay. But they have two different themes to them. The first one is a little more action adventure, a little more sci-fi, okay, because Star Wars is considered science fiction, but it's more science fantasy, spaghetti western, okay. And the other one is a little more dramatic, is a little more tense. It's more of a human element and theme to it. A lot of hopefully a lot of suspense just in dialogue, and it has a lot of, how do I say it, old politics and old political characters of the 70s. You have to pardon me for the riffraff next door. But unfortunately, I'm not in a black obsidian fortress on Mustafar, and I actually have neighbors. So, again, if I can get the music going and you won't be able to hear the background, you won't be able to hear cars running up and down the street or police sirens, because we're in Philadelphia. So, I mean, it can be a little hectic. It can be like the under levels of Coruscant at times. Okay, except the outfits aren't as cool. But that's the direction that I want to go with this channel. I definitely want feedback. I usually stress for you guys to leave comments or to respond to the community tabs. And hopefully on live streams like these, you can just, ask me whatever question you like. Okay? And I'm trying to keep my voice soft just in case somebody requests like a live Vader impersonation. We would be honored if you would join us. Yay! It's the first one. That's for free. All right. So, there's so many things to talk about. I'm trying to get my thoughts straight. As I said in the previous video, I am trying to get a Darth Vader costume built. And it costs money. All right. So I have one item. I won't say what it is because I want to make it like a vlog, like, a video experience where I open each one and, kind of show off the piece, the articles. And my goal is to get a Star Wars Darth Vader movie replica. Now, Star Wars, his sort of Sith sash, I guess, the robe goes over the shoulder armor. And I've been able to price the Vader helmet and the Vader shoulder armor, and it's steep, but it's affordable. Okay, so I'm definitely hoping that becomes a reality very soon. I think I called it Vader Assembled. That's what it's going to be called. Okay. And it's not like I can get everything from one vendor, which is kind of annoying, because you'd think that one site would sell everything, but it's not like that. So it'll require the Vader helmet, of course. Now, I do have a Black Series helmet, but that's not really movie accurate. Okay. So the helmet, the shoulder armor, the belt itself, not even with the boxes on it, which is, I guess, kind of cheap. It's like, okay, I gotta buy the boxes separate from the belt. Shouldn't the belt already come in the box? But no, it doesn't. So whatever, it is what it is. So I have to purchase the boxes that go on the belt. The chest box, obviously. There is a leather two-piece suit that I want to get. Not a one-piece, but a two-piece. Okay. And shout out to anime, One Piece. Okay. But a two-piece, a long sleeve top. It kind of goes on like a straight jacket in a way. It doesn't like zip down the front, but you kind of have to like fasten it in the back. And there are leather pants that go on it. There's also the cod piece. That's sort of like the armored accessory that sort of covers, the softer areas. All right. There are also the gloves. They're specialized gloves. Okay. Well, they're Vader authentic gloves. There's also, as I said, the Sith robe, the cape. I believe the chain comes with the cape. There are the boots, and then there are the shin guards, and that will complete the ensemble. As I said, I have one of those so far. Okay, so it will, as the channel grows, hopefully I'll be able to edit these videos in a better way, in a more streamlined way. Perhaps put more content out, perhaps put reactions out. I really want to shoot for the Ahsoka series, and I don't want my reactions to be run of the mill with me just sitting there going, "Ooh," you know. If I'm trying to think of something unique or a unique way to react to the Ahsoka series, I was actually thinking about having a, a a Vader's perspective reacting to it inside the mask. So basically, it'll be me with the chin guard, not shin, but chin, the chin guard, and it would be like a heads up display, like you see with Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark character in Iron Man, where you see his face and you see all these calculations going on. So I was thinking about maybe just reacting to stuff like that, like Vader would. So basically, it would just be my face with just the chin guard and maybe Arabish stuff running, just to make it look interesting and make it look unique. Because Darth Vader Unlimited, we want to be unique. We don't want to be like every other Star Wars channel. We want our own lane. Okay, so this way you can watch multiple channels instead of just subscribing just to one. And even now, I'm scouting locations. Now I don't have any kind of heavy duty equipment to film with, but that's where my heart is. I really want to make a Star Wars fan fiction short, not a full length movie, but a short. Okay, because there's just so much Star Wars content, so much fan film material out there that I don't know what the audience's patience is like. So, yep. If you have any questions, you can post them in the chat. So this is sort of a Q&A session. All right. So I would strongly encourage. Wait, let me say something first. There we go. I said something first. Alrighty. So now with the Ahsoka series coming, it's funny. I was celebrating my birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to me. And I asked one of my friends that I've known for over 40 years. Yes, I am in my 40s. I may not look like it, but I am. I said, "You're gonna watch the Ahsoka series?" He was like, "Oh, that, who?" I said, "Ahsoka." He's like, "Who's that?" So that just tells me right then and there that there is like a knowledge gap between fans of the original trilogies and the prequel trilogies and even the sequel trilogy. So hopefully this channel can sort of let you know where I stand, what my favorite stuff is, and be informative as well about the prequel trilogy. I'm not as big a fan of the sequel trilogy, and I really don't want the sequel trilogy to even be to feel enabled. Why Darth Vader Unlimited? So glad you asked. Because it spits in the face of the originals and the prequels. Is to me the sequel trilogy is very disrespectful. I don't hate the sequel trilogy, but I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogy. I really do not like it. I think it was. I think it was. I think the launching pad of this sequel trilogy really went downhill in the first 10 minutes. Now let me explain. When almost at Cassian Andor, when Poe Dameron puts the map or the portion of the map to Luke Skywalker in BB-8, I said, "Wait a minute, we're redoing Star Wars. We're doing a soft reboot of Star Wars." I was just incensed sitting there in the theater because I was like, "I don't believe this." We've seen this before. Vital information given to an astromech that he has to get to somebody else about the future of the rebellion against the evil empire. And this time it was called the First Order. I was just baffled. I really was. I was baffled. And then this is on a desert planet. I'm like, really? We're on a desert planet. And just like in a previous incarnation of Star Wars, which I have to say now, because this soft reboot that The Force Awakens was, the droid that's carrying the vital information is in the possession of the hero of the trilogy. Now we know Luke didn't purchase the R2 and C3PO. We know that Owen Lars, his uncle, did. But you can basically say that they were Luke's possession, R2 and 3PO. So now BB-8 finds himself in the possession, in the custody of Rey, and she was just Rey at the time. She wasn't Rey Skywalker. And I'm like, why are we doing this? And then when I found out about Star Killer Base being like another Death Star, I don't remember cheering in the movie at all. Even when Han and Chewie came aboard the ramp, which was a highlight of the trailer, the audience wasn't even a buzz because they knew where the direction of this movie was going. And I'm like, sigh. S-I-G-H. I just couldn't believe it. I really could not believe it. And Kylo Ren basically being a throwback to Darth Vader, I could tolerate that a little bit. And when he removed the mask in front of Rey while he was interrogating her, I dug it. You know, most people are like, "Oh, I was expecting somebody that was scarred and more battle tested," but him being a youthful young person, I said, "This is Anakin Skywalker, except this is his grandson." And I was a fan of Kylo Ren. I wasn't a fan of him losing. I didn't mind the sequence where he, spoiler if you haven't seen it, the sequence where he killed Han Solo. I thought it was his father. I thought it was very well done. I thought Snoke was going to really be a large Zentradi character. Now, if you're not familiar with Robotech from the 80s, you have no idea who the Zentradi are, but the Zentradi were like really tall humanoid aliens that Rick Hunter and the rest of Robotech had to fight off. I think it's Robotech. Wait a minute, let me make sure. So I had the toys when I was younger. Yeah, it's Robotech. Okay, but it was Bretai who was kind of the main antagonist. There was his boss was sort of like the Emperor. The Emperor wasn't really fighting Robotech and all the crew, but Bretai was kind of leading the charge, kind of like Vader does against the rebellion. And the Emperor character was called Doza. There was Chiron, Exodor, I believe. I'm just going from memory here, but I thought Snoke was going to be in the same vein as the Zentradi, like a really tall alien. But then in The Last Jedi, it's just a funny looking person with a shimmery gold robe and house slippers on. And again, I told you, The Last Jedi was my favorite movie of the sequel trilogy. And I was like, that would have just added such a different dimension if Snoke was just had a unique physiology. Because I thought Andy Serkis said that while he was interviewing, doing press for The Force Awakens. He said, well, he's really big and stuff. But apparently he was just talking about his hologram. Because it's like, why would your hologram be that massive? Like, he must have really had an inferiority complex to have this gargantuan hologram of himself while he's talking to Hux, while he's talking to Kylo Ren. So I was just like, why are we retreading the original steps of Star Wars? It's like you don't go back and re-chisel the statue of David by Michelangelo. You don't repaint the Sistine Chapel. You don't add hue to the Mona Lisa. I'm like, and then of course, I'll say, I almost call it vitriol or really anger, but I put it in the right direction. I said, Disney, I'm putting this on you. I'm not putting this on Daisy Ridley. I'm not putting it on John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Adam Driver, or Domhnall Gleeson. I'm not faulting any. I'm not even faulting J.J. Abrams for this. I think initially I did. I was like, J.J., what are you doing? But some of the direction I can put on J.J. The lightsaber encounter, I guess, between Rey and Finn versus Kylo Ren was just poorly done. It was really poorly done. I did not like it at all. It felt like a waste. I'm like, okay, all they got to do now is just escape. And somehow he beat them out there. Now I know he was. I think he was level. When he killed Han Solo, when Han Solo fell down that chasm, he was level because they were really high up, Rey and Finn. But as slow as he was moving, how could he possibly get there before them? And he knew which direction they were going to go in, and just be there waiting for him like he'd been there for a while. When he could barely move after being shot in his abdomen and surviving the crossbow blast from Chewbacca. I'm like, I just remember sitting there in the theaters just like, what the heck are we doing? But I will say that the two main questions that were stirred at the end of the movie was who are Rey's parents? What is her lineage to the Force? Okay. And who is Snoke? I think everybody in the world that saw that movie had those two questions in mind. Why is Rey so powerful with the Force? I mean, obviously she has to be a descendant of someone. And who's Snoke? Who is he? Where'd he come from? And I think we went to IHOP. I think we went to IHOP afterwards after we saw The Force Awakens, and we were just debating it the entire time. So we did leave The Force Awakens with questions, which is good. Okay. But there was nothing innovative about The Force Awakens. And I think that's where The Force Awakens kind of like lost points when you compare it to the previous 6 Star Wars films, the originals and the prequels that came before it. And I don't really count the Clone Wars movie because that's an animated movie, and I'm talking about live action. I'm talking about Star Wars movies. Okay, so I'm not being disrespectful to the animated movie. Okay, I'm talking about live action. So, The Force Awakens were like, who is Rey? And she was left on almost said Tatooine. She was left on Jakku in her vision. She was left in the care of the Unkar Plutt, the guy that what's his name? Simon Pegg voiced. And Simon Pegg is hilarious. He's like a British like actor, producer, writer, director. But the whole movie, all of the original characters are looking at her strangely, like, "You're back," or "This is what became of you." Because even after Han is killed, Chewbacca is giving her a look as he's still in the co-pilot seat for some reason of the Millennium Falcon. He's like, so I'm like, okay, this is somebody that they all know. Somebody, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie, they all know this person. So then we were theorizing. And again, it wasn't unique to our family. We're like, maybe Rey is the daughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that was the popular theory. And of course, people were saying, oh, maybe Kenobi and Satine had a little bow wow chicka wow wow chicka wow wow. Okay. And I was throwing around the theory perhaps she and Kylo Ren were twins. That's the theory that was my theory. I was like, her and Kylo Ren have to be twins or something. And maybe something catastrophic happened, when they show in part of her vision where they show Luke watching something on fire. We don't know what it is. Okay. And we see him rest his hand on R2 like, I can't believe this happened or whatever. It's just destruction. It's like something catastrophic happened and she was left on Jakku to protect her identity. That was my theory. And I was leaning towards her and Kylo Ren being twins. And I just knew, I said, okay, so Leia and Han are going to eventually get around to telling Ben Solo that she's his twin. That would have made more sense, all right, to me. And Snoke, we had no idea. He had a big old hole in his forehead. And I think it was Jeremy Johns, the YouTube reviewer, that said, you can tell somebody just stabbed him in his head with a lightsaber. So then it begged the question, it's like, has Snoke faced Yoda before? Okay, or Obi-Wan, or was he a dark Jedi that was critically injured and, went off the radar of Darth Vader and the Emperor in the era of the Galactic Empire? So usually when you're left with questions, it's great. But the movie itself, what I call The Force Awakens, is great. No, I wouldn't call it great. I would call it good, but I wouldn't call it great. Okay. And in The Last Jedi, and I guess this is sort of a rundown of the sequels a little bit, an informal one. Okay. In The Last Jedi, just about all my expectations were subverted. And I like the subversion of expectations because I don't like when things are predictable. I really despise that. So a lot of people they hate the entire movie. This is what most people hate. They hate the portrayal of Luke Skywalker, and that's it. I'm like, there was way more to that movie than just Luke. I mean, Mark Hamill had a supporting role in that movie. I'm like, you can't really just tell me, yeah, that's why the movie's terrible because of Luke. Can't just be because of Luke. All right. Let me see. How much screen time did Mark Hamill have in The Last Jedi? I'm going to look that up. 27 minutes and 37 seconds. And the movie itself is really long. And it felt long at the end, even though I said it's my favorite of the sequel trilogy. The movie was getting long. Like by the time, what's her name, Admiral Holdo flies the cruiser into the Supremacy, and they were still like going down to the planet Crate. I was like, oh god, we still got to go through that sequence. The Last Jedi is pretty long. Okay, but as I said, maybe it's just the subversion of expectations. Maybe it's the twist that it took that make it my favorite. I don't know, perhaps, but I believe that the Finn and Captain Phasma fight, even though it was less than like 20 seconds, I thought it was the best fight in the entire sequel trilogy. And also the fight that Finn had with the stormtrooper with the sort of baton, I thought that was the second best fight. So there's like no Jedi or dark side confrontation that exceeded that one. I mean, those two fights. So, oh, and you talk about a waste. Captain Phasma was so wasted in two of the three movies. I was just appalled. I was like, wait a minute. This character, who is my favorite character design in the sequel trilogy, okay? I have a figurine of Captain Phasma, okay? That's my favorite character design. A chrome plated stormtrooper commander with a black cloak. That was awesome. And in the very first The Force Awakens trailer, when they show her walking, I was hyped. I was making noise. I was like, who is this? And then he said Gwendolyn Christie would be playing her from A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. She played Brienne of Tarth. Now, I hadn't seen Game of Thrones by the time that The Force Awakens came out. But I was like, and as a woman, I was like, this is awesome. This is cool. And then I'm watching The Force Awakens. They show her at the very beginning of the movie. I'm like, okay, this character. I was like, she orders the stormtroopers to wipe out those villagers in Jakku. She kind of confronts Finn. She's like, FN 2187. Who ordered you to remove your helmet? And then she sends him for conditioning, I think it was. And she's kind of involved in the process. She's talking to General Hux. She's talking to Kylo Ren after he defected. Then we see nothing. There's nothing about Phasma after the beginning of the movie. The only part that I think she's in the second act of the film is standing there as Starkiller Base destroys Hosnian Prime, which is the capital of the New Republic. And then this was so blasphemous. This was so blasphemous. They show her walking down the hallway. That scene from, as I said, from the trailer, the first trailer of The Force Awakens, the one that got me hyped. Then she gets tackled, and then she lowers the shields of Starkiller Base. She lowered the shields, and then they threw her in the garbage masher. Who, who sitting around the writers' table thought that that was good? Who thought that? And this is the character that I had the most anticipation for. I knew it wasn't going to be the star or the hero, or the main villain. But this is the one that I was looking forward to the most because of her design. Then she has about what 5 minutes of screen time in The Last Jedi. I mean, it's her best performance, but 5 minutes. I'm like, why do they hate Gwendolyn Christie so much? Like, I didn't mind her dying, but I'm like, why didn't we get anything good from this character? So again, disappointments that The Force Awakens is basically a soft reboot of Star Wars. A second disappointment that my most anticipated character, Captain Phasma, turned out to be nothing. Nothing. And corny lightsaber duels, yes, I'm using the old school word corny. None of them were good. They all stunk. I remember J.J. Abrams in an interview, I think he was doing press for The Force Awakens, said, yeah, we wanted to make the lightsaber duels unlike the choreography of the prequel. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. He said it wanted to be very emotional. There was no emotion in that first one between Rey and Finn against Kylo Ren. It had no emotional weight to it. If anything, that was one of the things that made people turned off to the Rey character. That's when people started calling, "Oh, she's a Mary Sue." I've never even heard that term before until this movie came out, and I'm like, and the movie sort of goes off the rails when she uses the excuse me, when she uses the Jedi mind trick. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. You have really got to be kidding me that she can use a Jedi mind trick without any training. Terrible. And then the Rise of Skywalker was a hard watch. It was difficult to watch that. It really was because the stuff that's new is just uninteresting. The Knights of Ren, who J.J. Abrams did an interview about, talking about, they were like the inner circle of Kylo Ren. We don't see them in the first movie at all, except through that vision that Rey has, which is the best part of that movie. No hide or hair of them in The Last Jedi. And then in The Rise of Skywalker, I think it's 7 of them. They're all standing on one hill for a wide shot. Now, if you're looking for somebody, why would all 7 of you be standing on one rock in a desert? It's so brainless. The choices made in The Rise of Skywalker were just appallingly bad. And something else that was a disappointment. Lando, I don't know why he wasn't in the entire trilogy. Why wasn't he in the entire sequel trilogy? It makes no sense. So, Lando has a... Excuse me. Lando has on the same shirt that he was wearing 40 years ago, okay, in the movie Solo. He has on the exact same shirt. You talk about the wrong hands on the wheel. The wrong hands steering the reins of the... By The Rise of Skywalker, the sequel trilogy was just a runaway freight train. And not even that train from Solo, but this thing was horrible. Again, I do not hate it, but I don't like it. No, I don't. I do not like it. And the problem is the characters that are introduced are pretty compelling. That's what bothers me. The Force Awakens had a great start when Rey is scavenging through the Star Destroyer in her daily routine on Jakku. Scavenging parts, bringing them to Unkar Plutt. No. Before she brings them to Unkar Plutt, she like cleans them up at that little pavilion where that sort of robotic character is. Me I can. Ah. So she's like scrubbing, and then she looks over and sees a woman like 1,000 times her age doing the same thing. And in her look, this is why Daisy Ridley is such a great actress. In her look, she's like, that can't be me. No, that will not be me. There has to be more to the galaxy. I have to have a destiny. Okay. And again, Daisy Ridley, great actress, great facials. So after she scrubs the parts, she has to give them the Unkar Plut. He evaluates them. He gives them 30 portions or whatever. Or 1/4, excuse me. 1/4 portion. So she's like, all right, this is highway robbery. She looks away like, goes. And she's living inside of an AT-AT. She has a Jedi helmet because of the battle on Jakku that was sort of signify the end of the Empire. I believe that was the backstory. And I'm fully invested in the Ray Scavenger character. I'm like, this is cool. I like this. She's tough. She has her little staff or whatever. She has a speeder. I'm like, this is a great setup for this character. Now, Finn from the beginning. I wish they would have stretched it out a little bit. When he's ordered to kill the people. I think he should have at least shot one person and then be like, what did I just do? You know what I mean? It's like you're under orders. You've been conscripted into this since you were a child. He didn't have a name. They showed a picture of him as a baby. I am doing great, Blue Eagle. How are you doing? This is my very first live stream, so as you can tell, not a lot going on, no music playing, but I'm glad you've joined me for as long as you can. All right, Blue Eagle. So I was just talking about some of the things that sort of disappointed me in the sequel trilogy. It's not a sequel trilogy bashing stream, but so as I was saying, I feel like Finn should have shot. It's good to hear, and it's just you and me for the rest of the hour. So hey, if you want to ask any questions, feel free, sir or ma'am. So as I was saying, I think he should have at least shot one villager, or maybe critically injured, or maybe shot somebody that was like feeble. And then you, the audience, we, the audience, could have said, "Oh man, he just killed this person," or whatever. And then you can have that moment of doubt, that moment of indecision, and stop shooting. You know what I mean? But for him to just go, "This is horrible. Let me stop right away." You know, again, I'm saying that as an audience member. I feel like it could have been fleshed out a little more, that sequence. And from there, there's really no more conflict in Finn or FN 2187. There's just zero conflict. He's like, he's all cleaned up. He cleaned the red blood stains off of his helmet. He says Kylo Ren was the prisoner or something like that. So he takes Poe Dameron. He says, "Get me out, or can you fly?" He's like desperate right away. I'm like, that's it. Your 20 plus years of just like conscription into this first order, this empire like incarnation, and it's nothing anymore. He just done with the first order immediately after spending an entire life being indoctrinated. So I'm like, this is a little too happy here. He's like, "Yeah, my name's Finn. My name's Poe. Good to meet you, Finn. Good to meet you, Poe." And they're like best friends immediately. And he tries to fly out. He doesn't know, even though he's worked on this ship, the Star Destroyer, he doesn't know that the TIE fighters are attached by these cables. And it's just messy. It's messy for the sake of slapstick. Exactly. Zero conflict whatsoever. And I really thought that, and a lot of people thought this too, so these aren't original ideas that I'm coming up with. I thought that maybe he was going to be the one that was force sensitive because I do believe like the light side of the force would say this is wrong. Now, obviously, he would be more, I guess, rehearsing the dark side because they say it's a balance between the light and the dark. So if you're doing evil, obviously, you're more familiar with the dark side. So when that light comes, it's almost like a dark room. You shine a small light, you're going to notice. It's like, wait, what's that light? It's like, it's not that bright. It's like, but we can see it. So a little bit of light can balance out a lot of darkness. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say that? So I thought that maybe his realizing the atrocity that he and the First Order are committing would be kind of what would set him up to be force sensitive. And they only touch on that again in The Rise of Skywalker, almost as if they were answering the fans' inquiries and questions. Well, let's make him force sensitive. Hey, everybody thought he was in The Force Awakens. Hey, let's run in the movie. And that other shameless piece of fan service with Chewbacca getting a medal. Come on! You were holding on to his medal for 40 years? Who was left from the original Rebel Alliance to be in this new resistance to have his medal? Why would his medal be kept? The sequel trilogy did not do Star Wars any favors at all. They don't elaborate on the original trilogy. They don't even let us know where we're going after the originals. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is 30 years after the originals. We have no direction after 30 years, literally 30 years of Star Wars, and 30 years in the Star Wars galaxy. We have no direction where anything's going. We have a tacky backstory that the First Order was growing in the outer, was it the outer rim or the wild space or whatever, the unknown regions perhaps. And Leia, an original member of the original Rebel Alliance, is telling the government, we got to watch out for this First Order stuff going on out there. She should know her son is a part of it. And then for the bureaucracy of the New Republic just to go, whatever. We don't have a fleet anyway. And they hint at that in the conflict. No, excuse me, the convert in the Mandalorian season 3, where I don't know what he is. He's like a data clerk. He says, "Yeah, we're in the process of disassembling the Alliance fleet, decommissioning the Alliance fleet." I'm like, "Oh God." They're really doubling down on the sequel trilogy. In The Mandalorian, of all things, which I thought was the best thing since the original trilogy until Andor came around. Okay. And exactly. Here's a reminder. Yeah. The two recipients of the medal that destroyed the first Death Star, that really kicked off the Star Wars franchise. By the way, Chewie, we had a medal for you. Okay. Chewie sure as heck did not care about no medal. You know why? Chewbacca and R2D2, the ones that don't speak any English, are the only ones with dialogue in that ceremony, in that scene. Chewbacca tells the people to turn their formation. He goes, and they all turn. And then at the end, he says, "Okay, now you can applaud." He goes, and everybody starts clapping. Yay! And Chewbacca has the last word in Star Wars. Why does he need a medal? And of course, when R2 comes back, he's the only one talking. As I said, Chewie and R2, the only one with any dialogue in the final scene of Star Wars. So the sequel trilogy is poorly written. No disrespect to Chris Terrio, no disrespect to J.J. Abrams or whoever was worked on it, but I'm beginning to feel that Disney was just micromanaging the sequel trilogy. That's just how I feel about it. Because you can't have talent like that and go that wrong. You really can't. I do not think it's possible to go that wrong unless Disney was saying, go this direction. Or when J.J. Abrams went that way, they just had a shock stab to back this way, J.J. Okay, sorry. And we're doing anything special for May the 4th. I hadn't planned on it, but maybe I should. And again, I'm still trying to figure out how to. That's cool. I know what you meant. Will you be doing anything? I'm really still trying to figure all this out. I just have a green screen here with an ocean of things that could happen, but I don't have the know-how yet. I definitely want to get music playing, Blue Eagle. And I really hope that you've enjoyed the content on the channel thus far, Blue Eagle. But again, in The Rise of Skywalker, it was just off the rails. Off the rail. And the Willow disappearing pig trick that they do with the lightsabers, like, here it is. I was like, here's Willow. The original Willow, not the new Willow. I haven't seen the new Willow. But as I said, there was too much talent involved. You had Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Peter Mayhew for some scenes. Physically, Peter Mayhew wasn't himself. So that's when they introduced Ioannis Santamo to do some of the Chewie scenes. New great actors. Domhnall Gleeson, who played General Hux. Daisy Ridley, great actress. John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Poe Dameron. Lupita Nyong'o, who voiced Yoda. No, I'm kidding. Maz Kanata, who was basically Yoda with the smuggler's outfit on. But again, we're talking about heavy hitters of this generation of acting. I forgot Gwendolyn Christie, Andy Serkis, for the love of Pete. And you fall this far off the mark. I'm not even putting this on J.J. Abrams. I'm not putting it on Rian Johnson, and I'm definitely not putting it on J.J. Abrams again, who directed The Rise of Skywalker. This has the earmarks of Disney all over it. all over it, and they were micromanaging so much that they didn't see all the trouble that they were setting up for themselves. But again, I don't hate it, but it's not the best Star Wars. Okay, and as I said earlier, I love Star Wars so much that I can recognize when something doesn't have the same heart or the same spirit as great Star Wars. All right. So we're at about 55 minutes. I'm gonna bring it in soon, but I really enjoyed doing this. Thank you, Blue Eagle, for tuning in. I love it. I love all you do. My favorite videos are every 100 subs. Oh yeah, I like those too. My channel will spread across the. I get all my friends to sub so you can make more of those. Thank you so much, Blue Eagle. I truly appreciate that. And I definitely want to do some giveaways on the channel. When I was taking ideas for a new name for the channel, I said that I was going to give away Darth Vader issue number 1. I also want to do perhaps some figurine giveaways because I have most of the Attack of the Clones characters. Thank you so much. I have most of the Attack of the Clones figures from 2002, so that's about 21 years ago. So I doubt they're worth, you know, oh, keep it in plastic. It's a collector's item. It's only about 21 years. So, I mean, none of them have been opened, but perhaps I don't want to say auction away, but I just want to give you guys something for giving me your time and your subscriptions. As I said, I want to do more reading. I definitely want to do some excerpts from the novelization of Return of the Jedi. In particular, when Obi-Wan Kenobi describes to Luke his battle with Darth Vader before he becomes cyborg Darth Vader. Okay, in Return of the Jedi, where the ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up after Yoda passes away. In the novel, that's where Ben Kenobi explains his battle with Darth Vader to try to get him back to the light side. All right. And basically just want to talk about, or maybe read some great excerpts from the original books. No. Not the original books, but from that golden era of Star Wars literature between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace. Great live stream. Keep up the great voice acting and get some rest now, my friends. See you next time. Thank you so much, Blue Eagle. Please tune in and please share. All right. But yeah, that's the direction that I want the channel to go in. I want to talk about the stuff between Return of the Jedi and the Phantom Menace, novelizations of the movies before the prequels came out. Yeah, I'll sign off in about a minute or so. Okay. And as I said, I'm in the process of building a movie accurate Darth Vader suit. I only have one item so far, but I want to make a vlog of it just to create content, so you guys can go through this journey with me. Because again, look, it's new. I still don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know how loud the volume is of my voice. I don't know if you guys can hear me well enough, but it seems like you guys, well, you guy or gal can. But yes, and I'm hoping that there are great things in the future for Star Wars, okay, and for Darth Vader Unlimited. I wanted to be fair, okay, but I think the future is bright. I don't think I have to be too technical. I don't have to use a name that only certain people that read comic books will know. But I want to do what Disney should be doing now in unifying the fan base instead of further alienating it. So hopefully everybody can understand everybody else's perspective. It's like, well, we remember the Dark Horse comics. We remember the Timothy Zahn novels. I want you all to know what all was entailed in this galaxy far, far away. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you for the next time. And may the Force be with you is kind of cliche, so let's see. What would Darth Vader say? Who cares? May the Force be with you. I'll see you guys next time. All right, now I have to figure out how to end this. Where is end? I'm sure I'm going to stop streaming.